Alright, everybody, welcome back to coverage here of the Magic Online Champion Showcase Season number 2 here in 2025. I'm here with none other than Hall of Famer, Mr. Reid Duke. Reid, you excited here for our top 4? And also, there's something spicy that happened in our first round of Modern.
Right. So we broke down the metagame just a few moments ago, but fully half the field, 4 out of 8 players, showed up with Affinity. All 4 Affinity decks were in different corners of the bracket. All 4
Which is
Affinity
already
decks,
impressive.
Yeah. All 4 Affinity decks lost round 1. So we will not have a 3-0 Affinity player. It does mean that our O2 match will be an Affinity mirror when we get to round 3. However, based on the unique structure of the MOCS, our Vintage Cube champion, Tom McWinsauce White, he's playing Affinity, so he's going to appear in the grand finals as an Affinity representative. So if you're rooting for Izzet and you want to see some Kappa Cannoneers, you might still get your wish.
Yeah, that is true. No matter what, we won't be seeing any more Izzet Affinity, except 100% we will see it in the grand finals is how that works. So it went from, weapons manufacturing to weapons malfunctioning, I guess, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
All right. Low hanging fruit there. I'll give you that one. But let's take a look at the 4 players we're going to be seeing here. Let's start with our main feature. We're, of course, going to be following all the decks that won it. And oh my goodness, this is a feature match here. There's no debate whether or not these are the 2 most accomplished players in the field. They are. They absolutely 100% are the top 2 that are the favorites. NathanSteuer being just an absolute amazing player, burst onto the scene by showing up here. Magic Online Champion Showcase. Won it, and then translated that invite to the World Championship where he won it, and then he went to that very next Pro Tour in Minneapolis where he won it, where I believe, Reid, you were in that top 8 as well, if I correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, so Nathan actually had 3 top 8s or top finishes in a row. He won the World Championship, then he made top 8 of Pro Tour Phyrexia, then he outright won Pro Tour Minneapolis. Pro Tour March of the Machine in Minneapolis, all in the span of like under 6 months.
Yeah, that's a good point. And how could I forget that Pro Tour in the middle? Who ended up winning that one? I know it was some pretty strong Magic player, right?
That was me. There
we go.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah, I gotta love it. It's been nice to have a bunch of commentators that have firsthand experience playing against Nathan in these premium tournaments. And, Ely was even talking to me about your guys' match. You played and eliminated NathanSteuer, and you had a little bit of a juke in that Pro Tour where you sided out your combo, kind of at the perfect game, and then sided it back in. It was truly an absurd match that you played against him.
Yeah, Corey, we've had some good discussion about just the pinnacle of Magic competition where, the Pro Tour and the MOCS are 2 of the very few events on the calendar that I would say this about. But when you're facing players of the caliber of NathanSteuer, Yuuki, Ichikawa, you kind of know that you're not going to get anything for free. They know what's going on as well as you do. They're going to make every play exactly how you don't want them to make it, in the way that makes things as hard as on you as possible. So you have to get creative in terms of looking for edges of like, how can I sort of keep them guessing? How can I do what they don't expect? How can I bring a strategy that they're not prepared for? And so that's a lot of what high level Magic gameplay and tournament preparation is.
And of course, Yuuki Ichikawa, we cannot stress how many top finishes he has, how experienced of a Magic player he is, what a dominant force he is on all the teams here from Japan. He's been playing the game for a long time. You see that those numbers in gold, has the highest modern win percentage out of these players as well. So really no stranger to high-level Magic as well, Reid, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, Clash of the Titans here. These guys are both former Magic Online champions. They both have premier event wins under their belt, and they're both highly, highly regarded by their colleagues as two of the best players playing today.
Yep, Yuuki Ichikawa on Team Moriyama Japan and NathanSteuer on Team Handshake as well. Some of the best teams, as well as your team, Team TCG player as well. That's kind of the big three that we're dealing with right now. So really cool to see him back at it. And, the last MOCS that we played, Season 1, Yuuki was there, made it to the finals, made it to Worlds. So wants to do that again, as that's a very... I wouldn't say easy way to Worlds, but that is definitely one of the avenues to the World Championship for Yuuki Ichikawa here. So let's take a look at the deck list here. We're not going to be seeing Affinity at all. Let's take a look at NathanSteuer's to start. And this was that really awesome control deck. Looked very close to what Eli Cassis was doing, not doing anything that we saw like maybe the finals of the Pro Tour, where it's kind of the Days Undoing Narset version. This is just some good cards here, Reid.
One of the things that's going to be awesome about this matchup is both players have brought what I would refer to as reactive, disruptive decks. When you build your own deck in that style, you're definitely gearing for the biggest handful of like most expected matchups that you're going to face. So optimizing your removal and your permission to beat the popular decks. So it can get really interesting when two decks like this face off against one another. And do I have the right answers to the questions my opponent happens to be asking? Do I have, a density of generically powerful cards that are going to serve me in a grindy, mid-ranger control matchup? So looking at Nathan's deck, he does, as you say, Corey, just have a density of really strong cards. Like Flage, Titans of Fire's Fury, that's just one of the best cards in Modern if you can get that thing going. But yeah, a little bit more on the removal heavy side, a little bit less in terms of the traditional control elements like dedicated card drawing. But I think Nathan's going to be able to navigate this well, and if he can find the dust settling with a Quantum Riddler or a Flage on his side of the battlefield, he's going to be well on his way to winning.
Totally agree, and got to pay attention to those 3 Teferi Time Raveler. It's kind of weird that Teferi was printed, however long ago for PT War of the Spark, but it was kind of the card of the tournament. Like Teferi overperformed in basically every time we saw it on camera. Every Teferi deck ended up doing a lot, whether it is preventing cards from coming off rebound or suspend like Lotus Blooms and Ephemerates, or just preventing all the free counter spells and the free pitch cards like Subtleties to interact with you. So really cool stuff here from Nathan. Let's take a look at Nathan's opponent. It's Yuuki Ichikawa, and we did just see this deck under the lights and winning that really, really close game up against Affinity. Well, everyone beat Affinity, I should say, so that doesn't narrow it down. But walk us through this deck here, Reid.
So this is a more creature-centric version of a similar shell with Ephemerate, Quantum Riddler, creatures that enters the battlefield abilities. But Ichikawa is really hoping to leverage Felia and Psychic Frog as extremely potent 2-drop creatures, using Overlord of the Baelmerk as a payoff card when combined with Felia, but also just to dig towards key interactive pieces, rebuying subtleties. And Corey, I do want to follow up on your point. Teferi exists in this deck as well. That's going to be a key card on both sides. If one player can land that, it's going to give them a huge amount of control over the pacing and the dynamic of the game. And one thing that I've noticed going into the Pro Tour and beyond in the wake of the Pro Tour, the numbers of Teferis in all these decks just seem to keep going up and up. So I think people are coming to the same conclusions that you were, that this is a really desirable card right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we jump in, who do you got? Who's your favorite in this matchup to take it down?
Boy, hard to pick with 2 elite players and 2 really well-constructed decks. But I'll pick Yuuki. I'll pick the Esper deck. How about you?
Yeah, I'm a close one on Yuuki as well. I just think you're able to play a little bit more proactive Magic, and cards like Galvanic Blast or Galvanic Discharge maybe don't line up as well against some of these creatures here. So, but like you said, this is going to be the type of games that they go on for 15 turns, and both players are going to look back on it and be like, maybe I could have won if I would have done X, Y, or Z, as this is usually a very grindy matchup. But enough of our speculation. Let's figure out actually who is going to take this down here in round number 2 of Modern here at the MOCS. And getting into it here, players are going to decide if they want to keep here. Both look like fully functional hands. But, Reid, kind of getting into this as these players get ready to go, were you as a testing team thinking that Teferi was going to be as strong as it was? Or do you think Teferi was even a strong card at this Pro Tour?
Yeah, and once again, I have to confess sort of being on the wrong side of history on this one. I was a little bit of a skeptic of Teferi. Okay. I'm like, okay, Modern's so fast. It's all about your 1-mana cards, your free cards. Teferi's just sort of this random 3-drop that I don't know exactly what its key purpose is. It's nice to have, but it's not filling a key role in my deck. That was my position. But a couple of my teammates, in particular, my teammate Luna Eason, was really advocating, like, hey, we got to get Teferi in our Esper deck. We got to get Teferi in our Azorius Blink deck. And Luna was totally right. Like, I did play one Teferi, and it was one of my best sideboard cards. Won me a few games that not much else would have. And that trend of like people just continuing to add more and more copies of Teferi, I think that's people correctly identifying the metagame trends and being on the right track.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Luna Easton, of course, a phenomenal Magic player. She's been on a tear. But catching up to the game, we had the turn 2 Psychic Frog from Yuuki Ichikawa. Ends up being met with a prismatic ending. It was slightly awkward for Nathan. Nathan had the Spell Snare, which he was going to be hyped to be holding up, but actually only had Meticulous Archive and then Mystic Gate as his only 2 lands, so was unable to cast that. But prismatic ending on 2 right before Yuuki found this Force of Negation is big game. And wow, blink and you miss it, as we have the Quantum Riddler that gets met with Subtlety, or met with Solitude. But hey, Subtlety didn't get cast on the Solitude. A lot happened there, Reid. Break down what went on there and why we didn't Subtlety it.
Yeah, holy cow. Okay, so on turn 3, Ichikawa goes for the 1-2 punch of his deck, which is Quantum Riddler and Ephemerate. Nathan allowed the Quantum Riddler to enter the battlefield and draw a card, but in response to the Ephemerate, he pulled the trigger on his Solitude to stop Ichikawa from blinking Quantum Riddler. To your point, Corey, Yuuki could have subtletied Nathan's Solitude, elected not to do that, and that's like a really meaningful judgment call to me, because it would have been quite tempting. Just, pull the trigger there, get your 4/6. You get to recoup some of the card disadvantage right away. A couple things to think about there. Number one, the Solitude could just go back on top of the library to be cast again the following turn. Number two, something even worse could happen, like Nathan could play Teferi, which we identified that as such a key devastating card. Also, Nathan could have set up his own big Ephemerate turn, like, I replay the Solitude, this time I have Ephemerate for it, or I play my own Riddler and Ephemerate. So there's just a lot of thinking to be done there. And again, a non-obvious play from Yuuki to not Subtlety, but I know that he's being thoughtful about this game and trying to prepare for the most possible outcomes that he can.
God, competitive Magic is the greatest. Just being able to break down so many things that happen here in turn 3. Modern looking awesome. And getting caught up. Here we got Fable. Fable can't be Subtletied, and we just drew the Force of Negation now, maybe a turn late, as Wrath of the Skies is definitely going to be one of these cards that Nathan is going to be very happy to side out. So, just makes Fable even that much better, that you just get to discard that and maybe discard the Spell Snare as well, although that's still going to have some text. Just being able to loot it away is such big game with Fable.
Yeah, notably, Fable's a one-of in Nathan's deck. It's really strong with a lot of what he has going on, the enters the battlefield triggers and setting up Flage basically perfectly. It's also kind of his signature card. He won the world championship with Fable of the Mirror Breaker.
Well, to be fair, so did every other Pro Tour champion within that year span. It went Nathan at the Worlds with Fable, you with Fable in your creativity deck, Nathan again with Fable in his Rakdos deck, and then I can't remember, but Fable won another Pro Tour after that, I think,
Jake
right?
Beardsley with Rakdos Scam in Modern.
Yeah, that is right. And then we went to the World Championship, where finally Fable didn't win the event because... it got banned, I guess, right?
Yep, that's right. So I'll tell you an interesting conversation that I had with Nathan a couple months ago. It was shortly after Edge of Eternity's was released,
okay.
And I was asking Nathan about his standard deck for Spotlight Series planetary rotation.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, Quantum Riddler gives me the same feeling that Fable the Mirror Breaker used to. I think this is the new card that we got to be playing with, and I think that's borne out. And actually, he has both in this deck.
Well, I mean, he is right. Quantum Riddler is kind of doing. It's at that power level at least for sure. So, all right, we went for Teferi. Teferi was met with that Force negation, and then had the Spell Snare for Philia. So, this is another thing that we're noticing. I feel like we keep talking about an intricate line that these players are doing, and then right when we get caught up, we need to get caught up into the next intricate line. These players are both playing at an alarmingly fast rate to be playing this tight of Magic. Really reminds me of like the LSV, kind of the other fast players with LSV. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's hard for us to keep up, like even explaining what's going on, let alone, processing the the strategic implications of what they're doing.
Yeah, this is pretty wild. But now the dust has kind of settled. And now we just have the Overlord that's ticking down. And just a subtlety available. And on the other side, not too much going on as well. We have the Reflection. Didn't even want to attack to play around a possible subtlety. God, that is great. I mean, you even do this when you have a Solitude. You don't want to get in there?
Well, it occurs to me that like it could have been really good for Nathan if Yuuki had tried to ambush with the subtlety, because then you could just hardcast your Solitude, exile it, and then be ready with either copy or ephemerate the Solitude when the Overlord comes off impending. Yeah. But on the other hand, there's value in keeping the Reflection open to target your Solitude. There's value in sort of not revealing information to your opponent. So I think just like kind of the safe, tight line of not exposing the Reflection to death in combat makes sense.
Yeah, and wow, God, this is just more high-level decisions after another. Normally, subtlety on a Solitude looks amazing, but when it's just going to go on top of the deck and then Nathan is just going to recast it on this Overlord, you're not really accomplishing too much, so decides to not do that here. And, all right, what are we doing here? And, oh, yeah, there's a Riddler on Warp.
Yeah, and here you see exactly why Yuuki didn't want to subtlety the Solitude, because he just really didn't want the hardcast Quantum Riddler to resolve. But you got to think like this is just a temporary measure. So Nathan is both ahead on the battlefield, and his next draw step is going to be the best card in the matchup. So what needs to happen for Ichikawa to battle his way back into the game?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, something Nathan can even do here that we very well might see is like, well, you can just put this Riddler on top. You can warp it. You can then use Reflection with the warped Riddler to draw even more cards. And wow, Reflection just doing a great job of exiling subtlety here. So the amount of cards that Nathan can draw next turn is really off the charts. And you got to think, like, what can Yuuki even draw to fight on this same power level? And I'm just not seeing it there. And yeah, Yuuki just says, you know what, you got me in kind of a lock. I'm not beating that Riddler with Reflection. And you got to say, Reid, the one of Fable the Mirror Breaker was not bad there.
So strong, especially just as like a non-creature threat that couldn't be subtletied. It's all about, you know, we said it at the start, like getting your threats to line up properly against your opponent, or, you know, navigate properly through your opponent's removal and disruption. And Fable the Mirror Breaker was basically the perfect card there.
Yeah, no kidding. Why play more than one when you're just going to draw that perfect one? It makes sense to me. So, any big changes? We did see Nathan take out those Wrath of the Skies immediately. Anything else really obvious to you that you want in or out?
Great question. So the one I'm keeping my eye on is Ragavan, which, you know, you could certainly make a case for, especially if you thought your opponent might not have the full complement of fatal pushes in after sideboarding. But yeah, Nathan, just keeping it tight, the long game, well-rounded control style. And Yuuki looks like taking out a lot of his Force of Negations. But and of course, both players maxing out on every copy of Teferi that they have access to. And I still believe that that's likely to be a key card in game 2. But structurally, I think the decks are playing the same game plan that they were in game 1.
So, Reid, do you think the Ragavans are going to come in if there's a game 3 when Nathan's going to be on the play? Because, like, I get it, not wanting to be on the draw, play a Ragavan, and then your opponent just plays a frog. Like, that feels quite bad to me. But on the play, I'm putting those Ragavans in my deck for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's the like sort of Magic 101 thing that I would recommend is you bring the Ragavans in on the play, but not on the draw, because Ragavan's better on the play because it keeps your opponent guessing where, you know, you might catch them with the wrong amount of removal based on the configuration of your deck after sideboard.
Yeah.
That's also an example of where, like, both players are at a level where they're probably going to know that that's the obvious choice that your opponent might be making. So it kind of brings up the idea of, like, do you want to next level that? And, like, you know that Yuki's going to have 4 Fatal Push when Nathan's on the play, so then Nathan doesn't even bring in the Ragavans. I don't know. All this leveling, guessing game type stuff that you can go really deep on. But I would agree with your assessment that, like, if you're just going for a basic, you know, fundamental tournament strategy that's going to serve you well, bringing the Ragavans in on the play would make a lot of sense.
That didn't sound like 101 to me. That was at least like 302. You know, that was
Yeah.
an advanced course. I think Ragavan 101 is Ragavan go burr and get that card into my deck. You know, like that was one of the advanced courses, Reid, for sure.
You're exactly right, Corey. Yeah, 101 was perhaps an underestimation.
All right, the good dog here, Philia, comes down to play and see what it can do. You know, of course, what you want to be doing with this in these Blink decks, one of the sweetest plays is Warp a Riddler, be able to attack with Philia, blink out Riddler, draw another card, it comes back as a 4/6. So definitely something we want to be lining up here, and we'll just see kind of how it works. And looks like this Galvanic Discharge is going to kill the good dog here right away.
Yeah, Ichikawa notably not playing his land here in spite of having Consigned to Memory available. Because I would think, like, you get your third land on the battlefield, then maybe if you get into some kind of crazy solitude battle, you have access to the Consign. But what this means to me is that Yuuki probably thought ahead about it and decided that he wasn't going to use the Consign to fight in that fashion, and therefore is not playing the land.
Yeah.
But yeah, just really like crazy attention to detail type stuff where you can focus the microscope on little plays like that and get into the heads of the players and think about what they're planning, what they're valuing.
Here's the first Teferi sighting here, and it looks really nice because, well, Ephemerate in that situation, you know, these Blink decks, they have 8 ways of keeping your Riddler around, and it's either Ephemerate or it's Consign. But Ephemerate nets you that extra card. Consign, you know, when you get it bounced, you do just kind of lose out on a card here. So now with this play, though, or now with what we have going on, Reid, there's some interesting options, including a way to kill Teferi here. Are you wanting to pressure down Teferi, or are you looking to do something different?
Right, so the way you could pressure Teferi is play Emperor of Bones, exile the Felia from the graveyard, and then use it to adapt and get the hasted attacker. The problem is your opponent has Solitude in their deck, and you kind of lose your whole turn if they have it.
Yeah, that would have
I'm
been a
still
train wreck, huh?
tempted, I think, you know, to just get that Planeswalker off the battlefield, and at worst, make Nathan 2-for-1 against your creature. But Yuki's making, like, honestly, a lot of choices different from my first instinct, which is not surprising. Often when I watch really high level players, they get further than like my first knee jerk instinct on turns like that.
Hey, that's what makes them the greats. Is you just think about something and you're like, wow, I did not think about that at all. And you know, that's why I just love Sundays at a pro tour. You know, I've never gotten to sit in the seats that you have sat in many times, but sitting in that viewing area right outside of the premier pro tour playing area, and just being able to watch a day full of Magic and really see the high level aspect of it. And it's the exact same when it comes to the MOCS. It's so fun to see this high level play from these players.
One of the worries with letting Teferi stick around is that now it gets just that much harder to kill Teferi. And, you know, fortunately for Ichikawa, NathanSteuer did not draw a 4th land, because if he had, then he would have instant speed Supreme Verdict available, which really just drops the hammer on any kind of creature-based aggression that would be threatening Teferi.
Yeah. Is there any reason to not let Yuuki attack there, and maybe he would pump the frog and try to kill Teferi, and then you Prismatic Ending or Purge? Is there any thought to that? Why did we do it so fast there?
I agree with you, Corey. I think that it would have been better to wait. There's not much that can go wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very minor, but, you know, I've learned a lot from, you know, watching you play, that you're always kind of putting your opponent in a situation where you're going to let them make a mistake at all times of the game, you know, and try to capitalize it, even though we probably would have just saw attack with the frog, both players look at each other, pass priority, and then Nathan's like, all right, kill it. You know, like, that's probably what would have happened, but, you know, it's still something that I would have expected to see.
You did highlight, Corey, like early in game 1, both players seem to be playing quickly. These are both experienced veterans. They probably looked at the deck lists and the opponent that they're facing, and they went, hey, this could be a slog. Like, if this goes to 3 games and we're going back and forth and we're playing long, the chess clock actually could matter. Yeah. And you know, if you settle into a match like this with that mindset of like, I'm gonna make every single choice perfectly and take my time and give attention to detail, you can sort of like get in your own head too much and then realize that you're starting game 2 and you've already used, you know, 15 minutes off your chess clock. And I think the players don't want to be in that situation. So it's this constant balancing act. I'm not saying that that's an excuse to like rush or play sloppy, but it's just being mindful of these competing priorities all at the same time, and just trying to be focused and do the best you can in the match.
Yeah, no, makes perfect sense. Kind of a sign of respect, too. It's just like, yeah, you know what? I know you're not going to make that play.
Right.
You're too good.
Why waste both of our time, you know, when we know that this is going to be the outcome anyway.
Love it. Okay, so Emperor Bones did do the play that we were kind of highlighting earlier. Bring back Felia, the good dog, blinking out Riddler, and normally that is really bad, but it looks like Teferi is going to be gone, and we're going to see the other aspect here of Consign that really makes this deck pretty special, Reid.
Yeah, so awesome stuff where killing the Teferi unlocks this play of casting the Consign in the end step.
Oh my god, Reid, you get to replicate the sacrifice trigger from the Emperor too?
Oh my god. This is so gross, and it's showcasing like all of the corner case interactions of the Esper deck. So what happened there was Yuuki used Consign on the 2 triggered abilities. 1 stopped Nathan's creature from coming back after the Felia blink. 2,
so Riddler's gone for good, right?
The Riddler's gone for good. 2, stopped his own creature from going away from the Emperor of Bones trigger. So, I mean, that was a devastating play. Nathan had the right card to equalize the situation in Supreme Verdict. But, man, that was a huge, very cool turn to watch for Yuuki Ichikawa.
Yeah, no kidding. Even though the replicate on the, the Felia trigger with verdicting in a way anyways kind of negated it, it was still pretty cool. So, gotta love that. And here comes Emperor of Bones, and I see one juicy target here in Yuuki Ichikawa's graveyard here. Yeah, I'm too tempted to take that Flage out of the game, even though something really nice like, adapt the Emperor of Bones, maybe bring back your own Riddler would be cool. But, yeah, just making sure Flage is not in the picture right now seems really, really nice.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay, big turn. Now we're at the spot where no one is clearly ahead. Now we're firmly in the mid-section of the game, with both players having a good amount of resources. So now it comes down to really the tight technical play of when to cast these spells, when to play around something, and... when you have to just kind of go for things. Looks like Celestial Purge main phase here before end step. Does that matter at all? What's he trying to play around here?
Well, he wants to make Yuuki think twice about adapting the Emperor of Bones. Okay. So basically, if the Emperor of Bones is on its way out, Yuuki could kind of free roll adapting, getting the Flage like Lightning Helix trigger. But by doing it in Nathan's main phase, he says, well, you can make that play if you want, but it means you might have to put the shields down on your subtlety or your counterspell or your removal, whatever it might be.
Yep, checks out to me. So plays the land, the kind of land that we would have really only expected from the Belcher decks, but that was kind of the hot tech from our top 4 competitor, being able to just have a decent little creature on the front end, and most importantly, just an extra blue card to be able to pitch to Subtlety and Force, which is pretty cool. And Fatal Push to Ophelia to be able to deal with that straight away before Nathan's turn. All right, Reid, what do you like here? How do we get this going? Do we do any sorcery speed stuff? Are you riddlering, or what do you like?
Well, there's a lot of options here. The one point that I'll make is that there's no rush. Like sometimes you can just identify, you know what, the game is not on track to end anytime soon. My opponent has a lot of really powerful reactive measures, so it's okay for me to just sit tight and make sure my cards can get full value and line up properly against opposing threats. But this is a great outcome for Nathan, where he gets to sort of bait out the Subtlety, then use Flage on his own main phase to kill it at a profit, set up the escaped Flage for next turn. So, I don't know what Nathan had to or should have done, but what he did really put him in a winning position.
Yeah, that was really nice. And just like it is, Top decking Riddler usually puts you in a winning position as well. Had to just be the best top deck here. I think the only consideration is, do you warp it or do you cast it? You know, sometimes you want to warp it first just so you can cast it the next turn and draw more cards, you know?
Yeah, I would warp it there. I don't you know, a lot of these choices have been like, I could see both cases, or, you know, it's a complicated board stat, maybe I'm missing something, but that one I'm pretty sure I would take the different approach and try to get full value out of Riddler.
Here's the question. I mean, if I am Yuuki, I'm consigning anything that is like somewhat relevant, just because in my draw step I get to draw 2 if I get that card out of my hand.
Okay, good point. So at 10 life, is the Lightning Helix ability enough that you're going to pull the trigger?
I mean, it's the fact that it's countering a Lightning Helix, but it's also draw a card. So, I mean, counter draw, if you look at it like this, it's a cryptic command, you know? Like, maybe that's a stretch read, but, you know, cryptic command at home here, where this counter spell, sure, it's countering something very medium like damage, which isn't nothing, but allowing you to draw a card at your next turn, I think, makes it worth it.
Yep, let's see if he has one more Surveil land that he can access. If so, he gets to see 3 new cards.
I will say sacking that fetch land was not 100% free. Being at 9 instead of 10 is a little dangerous with Flage on the other side.
That's right.
And I mean, this would be a great spot, you know, if you could Overlord into pick up a Subtlety, you know, but that is not what Yuki's deck is doing. It is a Solitude. They are too close. They are too close in names. Yeah, that's on them for designing that, not me for continuing to mess that up. But if you could Overlord get back a Solitude the Flage, I mean, that is exactly what Yuki would be wanting to do, but instead we'll have to find a piece of removal that more than likely will just kill it, put it into the graveyard, and allow Nathan to escape it once again.
Yeah, so, of course, Emperor Overlord of the Bailmerk mills 4 cards. There could be additional stuff to work with, but what are you seeing in terms of the cards currently in the graveyard? I see an Emperor of Bones. I see a Quantum Riddler. How would you approach this turn?
You know, if I was able to bring that back, I was probably going to want to bring back Emperor of the Bones and then eat my opponent's Philia and then blink out Flage. So when it comes back, it dies, you know, and then he has to escape it and eat up his next whole turn. And then maybe I have the Subtlety for it. So that would have been my line.
Yeah.
If that would have resolved.
That would have been great, but Nathan actually countered the Overlord trigger, which really put Yuuki in a bad spot because he did elect to just impend the Overlord instead of hard casting it as the 5/5. And so now, as you mentioned, 9 life, the Flage is threatening a lethal attack, and Yuuki has to throw some kind of material in front of it in order to just not be dead outright.
Yeah, and I actually love this block from Yuuki. Not double blocking to kill the Flage because, well, it would come back anyways. So decided to not do that. But yeah, going back to Yuki's turn, I'm with you, Reid. I would have warped the Riddler and I would have hard casted Overlord, and Yuuki did do the complete opposite. Not sure it would have made a huge difference here with having an extra 5/5 in play, but yeah, I mean, it easily could have. All right, heading to Yuki's turn, and there is 2 cards off the top, and oh my goodness, we have a Teferi. A Subtlety is going to get cast from NathanSteuer, and then a Subtlety back from Yuuki? What the heck? What a set of draws.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then the Teferi...
And then Teferi draws 2.
Teferi draws 2, but now, like, suddenly we have a game where we settled in. We thought it was a control mirror match. They're going for value, who can draw more cards off that Riddler. But now the most important thing going on in the game is that Yuuki Ichikawa is at 6 life against the Flage.
Yeah,
you can
Reid,
bounce
do you
it.
Bounce? Sorry to interrupt you, but do you bounce your own Overlord, or do you bounce the Flage? Because if you bounce the Flage and Yuuki doesn't find an answer, Nathan could just go play Phage, escape Flage, GG. So, or do you maybe bounce subtlety? I don't know. Bounce an Overlord looks pretty good. Try to get something back.
Yeah.
Tough call.
The problem is like you if you don't bounce the Flage, you have to chump block it and then kind of face the same decision again next turn. And how long can you go? Like, how long is that going to be sustainable for?
Yeah, and this is GG. There's no fourth mana for subtlety. The double Flage looks like it's going to take a down, Reid.
Yeah, just going from 6 life down to 0. Amazing ending to an amazing game.
Wow, what an incredibly well-played game from both players. What an incredibly well-played match from these two absolute superstars. I think this is a match that you could go back and, like, I kind of wish we were the sports analysis style where we could pause it, circle a couple things on the battlefield and be like, this is where things really went wrong, or let's dissect this turn. There just wasn't enough time for us to even break down all the really cool intricacies that are maybe not as obvious to other players type thing. Great match.
Yeah, I think I'll be going back over that one again. And even like the early game judgment calls, like the way, remember Ichikawa had an opportunity to attack a Teferi when Nathan was tapped out. Didn't do that, perhaps valuing something different, perhaps playing around in Solitude, but like way back in the portion of the game where we were just setting the stage, there were already huge, meaningful decisions being made right up till the very end, that last turn, right before it ended.
Yeah, just incredible Magic. And now we have NathanSteuer, who was one of the last people to be qualified for this MOCS, into the finals, looking to play for that World Championship spot. Reid, before we even get into our backup feature, you've been in those situations. You won those matches to get yourself into Worlds. I assume you've also lost those matches to miss out on Worlds. Like, how do you handle that as a high-level pro, and do you still get nervous in those moments?
Oh, I still get nervous every time. At the best you can say is just that you get a little bit more used to playing through the nerves. Yeah. But that's what that would be my advice to the players is like, look, you've done a lot of things right to get here, so just try to create that environment where you can be comfortable, where you can be focused, and where you can play, the same great Magic that you've been doing the whole weekend, and not, let the pressure get to you. In short,
I never got used to the nerves in those situations, so I just decided, all right, I need to get into the boost so I can be a part of the top 8, and really, really zigged instead of just improving my game on that read. That's next level as well, right?
Yeah, that's next level. But, that's the great thing about our seat here is you get to be part of the action while dodging, some of the stress of competition.
Yeah, 100%. So that's going to do it for our first round here of round number 2, or our first match of round number 2. But we got more Magic on the other side. NathanSteuer needs an opponent here in Modern, and let's figure out exactly who it's going to be. Let's check out our backup match and see the players we're going to be witnessing in this round. We got Zompa on the left and Jessy on the right. Both players. Jessy's been playing for a while. Zompa still really incredible to me. Has only been playing for 3 years. Just lost a close-ish game, I will say, here in Vintage Cube to not already get a world slot. So has to go 2-0 to be able to get that done. And same with Jessy here. Jessy qualified via the MOCS number 2, and Zompa qualified via the standard showcase qualifier. Let's take a look at Zompa's deck to start it off, see what we are dealing with here. Once again, not Affinity. Those are all gone, even though it was 50% of our metagame. Now, this is Eldrazi Ramp in quotation because it's also Eldrazi Brute Scale here. Walk us through this deck.
Well, first of all, Corey, I can't believe what you just told me, that Zompa's been playing for 3 years, and according to his player card, he's averaging 1,500 matches of Modern per year in those 3 years, and he's the standard champion. So Modern might not even be his best format, and that's how much he's playing. So this is somebody who's really dedicated and has really learned a lot to be on the the world-class stage in a very, very short span of time. I like his deck as well. The Eldrazi Brood Scale hybridized deck with Vexing Bauble as sort of a main deck, metagame choice, hate piece. But yeah, he's looking to just basically overpower opponents by getting tons of mana off of Eldrazi Temple, Ugin's Labyrinth, maybe play a Kozilek's Command to get those Eldrazi spawns and set up for an even bigger turn following. At the same time, he's constantly threatening an infinite combo with Basking Brood Scale and Blade of the Bloodchief.
Yeah, absolutely. And Zompa here, a member of Team Vents, kind of a newish team at the Pro Tour that popped up. Number one, Reid, I hope that you're as big of a fan of that team name as I am, as that's pretty sweet. But also, that team ended up putting one player into the top 4 in the form of the Belcher player, Miko, I believe. But yeah, great team name, right?
Yeah, that's a nice one.
All right, Zompa's opponent here. Let's check out the other side. Let's see what Jessy is cooking with here. And there we go. It's the Azorius Blink deck. Reid, we just saw this a little bit ago, but walk us through this one and how this matchup you think is going to play out.
Well, Corey, talking about zigging and zagging, this was the deck that I played at the Pro Tour, and one of the big motivations was that I thought it was really well set up against Eldrazi Tron specifically. With the 4 main deck White Orchid Phantom, blinking that back and forth, you can really shred the Tron mana base. However, the green-based Eldrazi ramp deck is not as easy because it has basic forests, because it just has a more robust mana base where it doesn't rely on setting up that exact configuration of lands. So that subtle difference, changes a matchup that was highly favorable into one that's a lot closer. So White Orchid Phantom, I think, is still going to be a strong card. It's still pretty effective against Ugin's Labyrinth in particular. But if Zompa can just get their mana underneath them and start casting those bigger spells, it is possible that he could get ahead and stay ahead and overpower the Azorius Blink deck.
Fair enough. And then last question, Vexing Bubble, that kind of hot tech that we see from Zompa. Is that a card that you're afraid of, or is that probably one that gets sided up?
It's in the middle. I mean, it definitely does something here because it stops the Ephemerate rebound. It also stops Solitude from being evoked, which is that's not like a play that Jessy is rushing to make as quickly as he can, but it's definitely something that can come up against those big Eldrazi's. So Vexing Bauble, it's a low
combo, right? Like, I mean, Solitude breaking
totally.
up the Brute Scale combo, that could be a big deal.
That's a great point. So yeah, Vexing Bauble into Brood Scale and combo off. The Azorius Blink deck doesn't have a lot of non-Solitude interaction to stop that. So yeah, the Vexing Bauble, at worst, it's a pretty low investment, 1 mana, and you can always cantrip it when you want to. And it does stop a few of the key angles from the Azorius Blink deck, so pretty cool.
All right, well, only time will tell to see who can take this down. We're going to be jumping into this match starting at game number 3. So players are 1-1, split the games here. And yeah, based on the clocks, these were kind of some grindy ones. Looks like we have Zompa on the play here with what looks to be a pretty nice hand. And double Flagstone up top for Jessy. Maybe not as ideal, huh?
Yeah, so double Flagstones can be a tiny bit awkward, especially with Felia. It's like you can get 2 mana, but only on your main phase because the land enters tapped, and so you might wind up main phasing Felia. I also happen to notice that there's nothing great to blink with Felia. Like, you can evoke Solitude, but that's not the same as Warping Quantum Riddler, where you get a really juicy blink target. So a tiny bit of awkwardness in Jesse's hand, certainly still, totally within reason to choose to keep it, but not one of the best hands, I would imagine, in the matchup. On the other hand, Zompa, just with the quick Eldrazi Temple, paying him off with Glaring Fleshraker number 1 and then number 2.
Gotcha. Okay, so we did see Oscillate Pride come down first when you had the choice of Guide of Souls as well. Is it almost always Oscillate Pride that you like to start with if you have the choice?
Such an interesting question. And I kept asking this and like running through different scenarios, talking to different people, and I really couldn't get to an always or even a usually. Like I think it just depends a lot on the context of your hand and what you think your opponent might do. Like for example, if your opponent's going to play a 2/2 blocker and you don't have an answer for it, then now you can't attack with Ocelot Pride and you're stuck. But on the other hand, you know, if you might want to choose to play Felia on turn 2 instead of one of the 1-drops, then you might play Ocelot Pride, attack, and get the snowball rolling while still spending your mana on something else. So there's a lot of corner cases and specifics that you need to think about when making that choice.
Yeah, makes sense. It's not cut and dry by any means. So looks like we're going to have Solitude here. And one of the other modes with Thraben Charm is just destroy an enchantment. Looks to be solid here to get Urza's Saga out of there. And then attack with Ocelot Pride, gain that life, get an extra cat out there. And hey, I mean, sure, it was a 3 for 2, but you didn't have to pay for one of those spells. So still a pretty nice exchange in favor of Jessy there.
Yeah, I love that.
But there's always more flesh to be raked. Here is Flesh Raker number 2. And, wow, okay. Guide of Souls looks pretty strong there. But the way it works with the Flagstone interaction, Jessy does only have 2 mana available this turn, right?
No, so what you can do is you can tap the existing Flagstones, play the other one, and then sacrifice the tapped one to Legend Rule. So you can still get your mana. The only awkwardness is you can't hold up untapped lands as easily.
Gotcha. Am I crazy to think that there was a rules change or something? Wasn't it back in our day, 2 Flagstones came into play, you sacked them both, or am I just completely fabricating that?
No, you're totally right. The Legend Rule has changed a lot over the years, and many of the previous rules were like very harsh, very punishing to the people controlling the legends. But yeah, these days... I mean... Go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, the last time I played with a Flagstone, that's how long it's been. There was a different rules thing going on. So it's nice that y'all found a use for one of my favorite cards.
Yeah, Flagstones is better than it's ever been. First, because of that, favorable Legend Rule change, but also Meticulous Archive, like those Surveil lands when your Flagstones does die, that extra value really adds up. So that sequence of like, I'm going to play a Flagstones and then White Orchid Phantom my own Flagstones. I get to get a basic Plains and a Meticulous Archive, jump ahead on resources, jump ahead on mana, and Surveil to set up my next draw step. It's just such a smooth opening where you kind of know everything's going to go right for you that game.
Totally agree. But hey, Reid, one thing I'm kind of noticing is Zompa has the combo. So the combo in air quotes because it doesn't really win immediately, but walk us through the interaction with Blade of the Blood Chief and Basking Brutescale.
Okay, Basking Brutescale, whenever it gets a +1/+1 counter, you create an Eldrazi spawn token, which of course can be sacrificed at any time for mana. Blade of the Blood Chief, whenever a creature dies, you get a +1/+1 counter on equipped creature. So you can just sacrifice a spawn, which gives a counter to the Basking Brutescale, which creates another spawn, and you can iterate that an unbounded number of times to make your Basking Brutescale arbitrarily large and generate a ton of colorless mana. And from there's a number of ways you can leverage that into a win. I mean, one of them is just attacking with Basking Brutescale. Can't do that this turn. But alternatively, you could find Glaring Fleshraker, you could find Walking Ballista. We'll probably see Zompa start cracking these Vexing Baubles to find extra action. But I guess what he's doing is he's just setting up to be able to do this next turn.
Yeah, so unable to actually make it, infinitely large, but of course the terminology we do use, arbitrarily large. It can't be infinite, you got to pick a number, is kind of why Reid said, arbitrarily large, but isn't able to really do anything with that mana right now, or do anything with a really large Brutescale. How do we get through and, oh my goodness, Witch Enchanter has to just close the door on this, right?
Well, I would think almost, but the thing is, Zampa has a Blade of the Bloodchief on the battlefield and an Urza's Saga ready to pop off Chapter 3. So
Okay.
kind of redundant access to his artifact-based part of the combo. Boy, yeah. This is a tough one.
This is a tough one because also, like, even if this Witch Enchanter didn't get cast, you jump 2 creatures into the air from Jessy, hit Zampa down to what we can attack for 6, 7, and the reason you see this pop up, by the way, the Discord aspect is we do mirror the player's screen, so if they're looking at a different thing on their monitors, it gets a little awkward as we do kind of see that stuff pop up as we do mirror their images. But anyways, we're dealing 6 in the air, plus we can deal 4 on the ground, so this is 10 damage that I'm counting. But the flip side is, you know, you are dealing all this damage, but you're getting a bunch of cats. You're getting at least 3 blockers, so what does Zampa need to do to push through damage or actually win with this combo?
Okay, yeah, so I see your point that if he just makes a huge Basking Brood scale, he's still going to die on flyers next turn. So that means he has to dig, which, okay, let's assume the Urza Saga has to get Blade of the Bloodchief.
Wait, you get infinite mana. Can't you just Emrakul him?
You sure can, yeah. I mean, that's a way to spend a lot of mana.
Oh my god, Emrakul off the top, and I mean, I think the other way to do it is like a Fleshraker, right? A Fleshraker is just GG. But Fleshraker was not found, so as far as my assumption here, we can add infinite mana, we can then sack the bauble, play a bauble, sack the bauble, you know, do that kind of thing to make sure you draw as many cards as you can. See if you can find Glaring Fleshraker to just win right now. And if not, Emrakul and try to figure it out from there. What a draw, Reid.
Yeah, now, this is actually one of those situations where it's conceivable that you could Emrakul and still lose. Your opponent has a huge board of creatures, so you Emrakul, you force them to make an unfavorable attack, a couple creatures die. I guess you can get rid of the flyers so that hopefully Jessy won't be able to kill you on the post Emrakul turn. Certainly the easiest way would be to just find the Glaring Fleshraker. Devourer of Destiny is pretty nice as well. I think Zampa will be able to do enough here that it just pares down Jesse's resources and can be leveraged to win, but I don't think the game's going to end outright this turn.
Yeah, because you get it, what is going to happen here is Zampa is going to end the turn with 5 blockers. Going to end the turn with 5 blockers. There's going to be 0 cards in Jesse's hand, which is already the case. And then on Jesse's turn, we're going to draw a card. We're going to make 5 bad attacks, or 4 bad attacks, because one of them is a spawn. And then we can think that Jesse's not going to have Oscillate Pride, not going to have Witch Enchanter, not going to have 2 cats. So that leaves Jessy with 4 cats, untapping, drawing a card up against 4 blockers, with Zampa being at 5. Like, I mean, this looks incredible for Zampa.
Yeah, I think it's going to be good enough.
And on top of all that, Jessy could draw a card next turn that is detrimental to himself. With controlling the turn, Zampa can do even more. With an Oscillate Pride being off the top, that's not going to be cast, and just going to be attackers made. We're going to see 4 attacks. We're going to see 4 amazing blocks. I wouldn't recommend this attack from Jessy. I think that was not the best attack. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree. What's Jessy doing here?
Yeah, just really played right into what Zampa wants to do. But okay, so now we see all this stuff. This creature's getting a little bit larger. Not a big deal. What can Jessy draw outside of this Oscillate Pride to be continuing to play Magic? Was it Plains?
No, it's not planes. I think it had to start with Quantum Brittler, and as it is, you don't have to concede because you can block the Basking Brood Scale.
For a while,
But
yeah.
yeah, but how are you? How are you gonna get any traction in this game state? Is the question.
Wow, what a turnaround here. This was wild. Oh, I'd love to be seeing both player cams, both their reaction here. I'm sure it's a wide array of emotions. Hey, there is the Ocelot Pride, and that's just going to be a passing of the turn. There's not any good attacks with those cats. So now let's see. Let's rumble. If we find a Glaring Fleshraker, we are all done here. That's a Glaring Fleshraker.
And there it is. Reid. That's the killing blow.
Wow. Okay, so, I mean, let's look at this from the big picture. This is Zompa losing to McWinsauce here not too long ago in the Vintage Cube streets to top decking that Emrakul. You know, of course, it wasn't as good as another Glaring Fleshraker, but it was needed in that situation. He was definitely dead if there was one more attack from Jessy. And now Zompa's back in the finals to get another crack at the World Championship, Reid.
Yeah, it's a great point, Corey, because like he had all that mana, he had a couple draws with the Vexing Baubles, but just getting a few good things would not have been enough to overcome the army of, it was like over 10 creatures, including flyers. So Devourer of Destiny, Thought-Not Seer past the turn, that's not good enough. Even Emrakul and not much else in past the turn may not have been good enough. But the combination of all of those things, forcing the bad attack, and then, Jessy, like, not being able to get over the finish line from that point, it was a really, really exciting game. It's cool when somebody can assemble a combo, cast their 13-drop creature, and you're like, this is still interesting, I still don't know who's going to win.
Yeah. Totally interesting, and it brings me back to, before we get to the finals, one of my favorite moments when we were on a testing team. I don't remember the Pro Tour, but someone was doing an Emrakul line, and they were just like, God, okay, calling over friends as we would do plenty of times, like, hey, can you help me out with this? And I think it was Brad that just walked by BBD. He's like, Brad, or BBD, just play like you normally play, and then that'll probably sum up the Emrakul turn.
Yeah.
Oh, gotta love daggers to your friends. But hey, we got one heck of a finals here in Modern on the horizon. It's gonna be NathanSteuer. It's gonna be against Zompa to decide who gets that other world championship spot and who's gonna play against McWinsauce in the finals. So before we head to our break, let's take a look at all the cool events that MagicOnline and Daybreak have on the horizon here. Let's start off with that Extra Life charity stream. There is nothing better than helping out, any kids in need. Extra Life does a lot of really, really awesome stuff. So November 8th, that is where you can, really donate to a good cause. You can just check out all the stuff that is going on November 8th. It helps to raise money, like I was saying, for kids with prizes, giveaways, trivia, interviews, and so much more. So really using magic to make a difference here. That stuff is really, really cool. So make sure to check that out on November 8th on MagicOnline for more details. So we're going to take ourselves a short little break, and we'll be right back with our finals here of Modern to see who's going to our grand finals. Don't go anywhere.